Outlet Liquor is your place to buy a case. Stock up and save when you shop the lowest prices available every day at Outlet Liquor. You never have to wait for a sale. The more you buy, the more you save. Only at Outlet Liquor.
What's your outlet?
Welcome to I'll Hang Up and Listen, brought to you by Outlet Liquor, the place to buy a case on George Urban Boulevard. Sabres beat the Islanders in a defensive juggernaut of a game, 3-2. Eric Comrie stands tall in his season debut, and finally, the guys you're paying to be the guys that score goals are scoring goals. I am joined by my co-host, Connor Hurley. Hurls, fun game to watch.
Yeah, that was a good one. We said the other night that this is a massive game for the Sabres, and it turned out that they stepped up to the challenge in every single way possible. I was just looking at some of the stats. The shots were 43-25 in favor of the Sabres. Playing against a team like the Islanders, that almost never happens. They like to limit as many shots as possible, keep you in the neutral zone. And from what we saw the entire game, for the most part, the Sabres really dominated play, and they controlled the puck in the offensive zone for the most part. And something that I'm just insanely surprised by, face-offs for the first time in forever, 38-18 in favor of the Sabres. That is just – I haven't seen that from this team in a really long time, especially against a team that is so defensively sound and so tough like the New York Islanders. So in every facet of the game, we'll get into it, they had their best game of the season, and it's not even close. They played well against the Lightning, but the Lightning, in my opinion, are not nearly as cohesive of a team as the Islanders are. The Islanders started 2-0. They had a tough game last night against the Devils. They got in late, so that might have contributed a little bit to their sluggishness tonight. But for the most part, the Sabres just, as they do in these black jerseys, they played almost a perfect game. It was really amazing to watch.
Yeah, and I apologize for the typo on the tweet. I did unfortunately 2 is right next to 1, and I was typing fast. I did write 3-2. It was 3-1. My mistakes. Anyways, no. In terms of the Tampa, I really felt like after that first period, really hunkered down defensively. We outshot them. I think it was 17-9 in the second period. And the scoring chances in the second, I mean, aside from maybe 2, I mean, they're really kept to the outside. Comrie saw every shot. Like, team defense was night and day different from the first 4 games. And I would say, and I don't think even Tampa it was okay, but tonight was definitely the best they've played as a 5-man unit from the first to the fourth line in the first 5 games. I don't really think there's any debating that. And I think how many shots did Comrie have in the third?
I don't know about the third, but it was 25. It was 25 for the game. So yeah.
Yeah, they shut him down. Just a complete night and day difference in effort, performance, blocking shots, taking away lanes. They just look so much better structurally tonight. And I people who follow me on Twitter, I went on a rampage today because I got sick and tired. I'm sick and tired of watching this team 5-on-5 be bad. just to be blunt, they're bad 5-on-5. They're one of the worst teams in the last 5 years, probably near the basement in every single category, 5-on-5. Please let this be the changing of the guard in that, because you genuinely need to be a good, sound defensive hockey team if you're not going to score 5-6 goals a game like we were last year. You have to be better. And it's a good thing that if at least so far you're getting good goaltending, aside from maybe a period and a half of the season. I'm just extremely excited about the way this game went, and hopefully, you know, we have an important back-to-back between with Montreal and Ottawa coming up. Hopefully, Benson's back in the lineup. He wasn't injured, right? Or he was day to day.
It was a lower body day to day.
So lower body day to day. Same thing with Levi. I imagine they'll both probably be back in the lineup come the Montreal game on Monday. But yeah, I mean, just bring that effort to you against Montreal, and you're back to 500.
Yeah, I personally, just the calmness that Eric Comrie had in that tonight, I wouldn't mind seeing him in there on Monday. I really wouldn't. I think the team really rallied around him being in there. I think they kind of knew that they couldn't be irresponsible defensively in front of their own net, so they really played as good of team defense as we've seen in a really long time. So maybe they could use some of that momentum into a game against the Canadians. Who knows? I mean, Levi is from French Canada. He's from the Quebec area, the Montreal area, so they might want to get him in there if he's healthy against his hometown team. And then there's obviously the back-to-back with Ottawa on Tuesday night. So we'll see how they handle that. I'm fine with any combination. The one combination that was particularly good tonight was the new Dylan Cousins, Tage Thompson, and Jordan Greenway line. We've seen how strong Greenway's been this entire season. He looks like a different player than he did at the end of last season. Tage Thompson, playing with a guy like Dylan Cousins, I think they complemented each other really well. Tage didn't score, but he had 10 shots on goal tonight, which you almost never see. He can get over 5, but I haven't seen him have 10 shots on goal in a long time. And Dylan Cousins, he gets that third goal, which obviously was a tap-in, but I think he had a strong game all night as well. I think he had 6 shots himself. So the combination, now you have a clear top 6, and you can figure it out as it goes. But Casey Middlestat with 2 assists. We talked in the post game the other night after the Flames game about putting Casey Middlestat on that top line with Jeff Skinner and Alex Tuch. And it seems like he unlocked them a little bit. I still think Alex Tuch didn't have his best game, but it was better than the first 4. And the play from Casey to Skinner, wide open, but Casey does all the work and Skinner buries it. So those 2 lines is your first 2 lines. Hopefully going forward can be very consistent and work well with each other. I think the bottom 6 played really well tonight too. Olofsson, I thought, had one of his best games I've seen in a long time. Offensively and defensively, I think he played really, really well. And you know what you're going to get from that 4th line. So I think Donnie might have found something here. We'll see what happens. Obviously, it's a game-to-game league. But the way all of those guys play with each other, I think could lead to something really, really good and consistent.
Yeah, that especially that Cousins and Tage. Is it Cousins, Tage, and Tuch?
Yeah. So no, it was Greenway. Cousins.
Oh, Greenway. I'm sorry. It was a heavy line. Sorry, Greenway, Tage, and Cousins. A lot of weight, a lot of heavy on that line, and they were in and around below the dots, creating havoc in front of Varlamov for most of the game. And we all saw. I mean, did that puck go in? I don't know. I mean, his pad looked like it went behind the line. Doesn't really matter. But we talked about it the other night. Like, when is this league going to get real camera angles inside the net where we can see if pucks cross the line? Like, it's nuts.
It's a joke. I just don't understand how they haven't figured that out yet. Maybe it's something to do with the ice or something else, but yeah, I don't get it. They easily could do that, I think.
Yeah.
And Gary Bettman's probably just sitting at home, just like, I don't care.
Yeah, it just drives me nuts.
Yeah, it's unfortunate, but it's probably going to save us in a few situations too, probably like it did the other night.
Yeah.
But yeah, I was encouraged from what I saw from Tage tonight. I really was. He seemed a little bit frustrated on that same play where he eventually got the puck in front of the crease and he still missed the net, but he was very persistent in the offensive zone. He was getting pucks on net. He was, I would say, moving better in the way that we saw him in the middle of last year. And it's super encouraging. I thought that line played really well together too. Seems like everyone loves playing with Jordan Greenway, which is just an amazing development.
What a turnaround for that guy compared to the way, like in Minnesota, kind of like he didn't really find his game. Obviously, it's kind of difficult to judge a player in a new system for the short sample size we had of him last year in a Buffalo jersey. But how about the turnaround in his game and what he's brought to the table? Like, I am so excited that Jordan Greenway is a Buffalo Sabre.
Yeah, I mean, Donnie said it when he brought him over. Like, he knew he had so much more to his game than what they saw in Minnesota. Having coached him before, having worked with him, he's played with Tage before, so maybe putting them on the line together has some added chemistry. That assist that he had to Darlene, which eventually got it over to Cousins, that was a good play in itself. And he plays with speed, he plays with physicality. Even putting him on the penalty kill, he had a really nice play tonight where with that long stick, he got into a passing lane, and that's not the first time he's done that this season. So with that length, that physicality, that adds a dimension to this team that they did not have previously. And putting him and Tage together, along with Cousins, who, as we call him, the workhorse from Whitehorse, that line's got skill, they've got speed, they've got physicality, and it really seems like Casey Middlestat, as we saw when Tage was injured towards the end of last year, has a really, really good fit with Jeff Skinner. And then we got to think Alex Tuck is going to figure it out eventually. So
Yeah,
I'm really, really encouraged by that top six.
Yeah, and like you said, Alex Tuck, I thought, again, the best game he had this year. Again, it wasn't really, on the score sheet, but that fight, let's talk about that fight for a second.
Sometimes that's what you got to do.
Yeah, I was blown away. We never seen an Alex Tuck fight, but that man was throwing lefts like Rocky Balboa.
Yeah, it was, I think for him, an activation moment. I think he knows that he's not played well this season. Even to begin this game, he had 2 really quick turnovers. And it seems like he's not being really strong on his stick, and he's not skating the way he did all of last season. So sometimes a fight like that, a moment like that to get your team going, and it seems like it did get the Sabres going. I'm not sure how too long after that they got the first goal. So, yeah, that's a big moment. He's a leader on this team. I think he knows he's underperforming offensively, but maybe that's the key that could turn him around moving forward.
Yeah, I couldn't agree with you more. And you still had that first power play unit together. That's not going to break up. You're still going to have Tage, Tuck, Skinner, Cousins out there with Darlene. And once they get going too, the scoring, it was going to go up. But I think the story of the game for sure is just defensively night and day how better we looked. And I can't express that enough. Samuelsson, I loved his reaction. He immediately turned. I don't know if the puck was in the net yet. He was already turning because he knew it was going in. And that celly by Samuelsson was fantastic.
He is an absolute beauty. You can tell that this team is different when he's in the lineup.
Yep.
And speaking of physicality, before we forget about it, Rasmus Dahlin, his head on Pajot in the
JT Pajot. Dude.
It's against the Sharks last season. It seemed like he said it himself. It feels like we're evil in these jerseys. He plays with a different intensity. He's obviously been the Sabres' best player this season, without a shred of a doubt. But when he adds that dimension to his game, I've said that he's a top 5 defenseman in the league. He's a top 3 defenseman in the league. He's already so much better in his own zone than he used to be, and he's creating offensively. I think he could do a little bit more, to be honest. I saw a couple people mention that tonight, his activation in the offensive zone. I do think that it could be even more than what it has been. But the fact that he's got an assist in 4 straight games, he's playing so responsibly, and then he can make a hit like that, and it just be an absolute momentum changer. He's a unicorn.
The way Pajot had his head down and he came across that blue line, it really reminded me a lot of that Campbell and Umberger had, the way he laid his shoulder into him, out cold. Really I was not expecting Pajot to get up after that because he hammered him.
Yeah, he. I don't know if he left his feet, but he launched into him. There's a picture Ben Mathewson tweeted out of behind the bench right after that hit happened. Don Granato is putting his hand on the glass because it seems like he needed to hold himself up, either from excitement or from the sheer impact of the hit being so close to the bench. So that gives you as good of an idea as any of how hard the hit that was. But yeah, he is truly incredible. He is poised with the puck, his skating ability, as we've talked about, his awareness in the defensive and offensive zone. As he continues to unlock his true offensive talent, I think it's going to be even better. I think the goals are going to come. It took a little bit last season, and then I think he got 10 or 12. So it's going to happen. But I'm just obviously grateful that that deal is done. And as crazy as it sounds, $11 million a year, it's going to turn into a bargain because he can consistently be the top 3 to 5 defenseman maybe even one of the best defensemen in the league for 10 to 12 years to come.
Yeah, you're not wrong. We talked too about the goaltending. Comrie making his season debut again when they needed him most in that first period. He stood tall. He looked fantastic, and I think definitely he kind of solidified himself as the backup goalie. Again, something that we talked about with Walt extensively. Like, what do you do? Like when Matthew Savoy is healthy and wants to come back, or in a situation where we do have an injury, what forward do we bring in? What do you do? Do you still continue with this 3 goalie rotation? Like, I think another game like that, I think UPL is probably on the trade block.
Yeah, for sure.
I know Kevin Adams has thinks very highly of him, but at the end of the day, and I know there's been a lot of discourse, and it's typical Sabres Twitter discourse about one game. Like it's like a vicious cycle, and you might agree with this, Hurls, is with goaltending since Ryan Miller left. Insert name, played great tonight. He should be our starter. That's literally what goalie Sabres Twitter has been.
Yeah.
And it drives me.
I feel fans are really reactionary.
It drives me.
I would love to get to a spot that Comrie's not even necessarily the backup, that it potentially could be a 1A, 1B situation.
I'm good with a 60-40 split.
Yeah, with his experience and his poise, I think he struggles in a situation where a game can get away from him. He's not going to give you the insane high danger chance saves that Devin Levi can give you. He's not athletic. He's not as athletic of a goalie. So he is at his best in games like tonight, and as he was at the end of the season against the Islanders last year when he got the shutout. When the team plays responsibly defensively, he'll make the saves that he needs to. And then even tonight in the first period where he went, as you said, coast to coast, and he made a really good save on Brock Nelson, who's been super hot. That's a huge save, but it wasn't a save where he needed to play outside of himself. He was just very good positionally. He got in a position, he challenged, and there was no rebound.
Yeah.
So if he's able to do that, that's all he needs to do for us.
And literally on that save in particular, like the read was perfect by him. Yeah. Like you could tell he knew Brock that was there. Like maybe the Sabres didn't realize Brock was there, but he knew he was there. And the second that pass up the stick, he was already shifting his head and shoulders over to make sure he was square with Nelson, and Nelson didn't stand a chance. Like he did not stand a chance on that shot. That was a save 10 times out of 10 in that exact situation with the way Comrie played it. And just to your point, Comrie is the perfect type of goalie that when you're not getting outrageously outshot and you're playing well structurally, he's not a guy who's going to hurt you by giving up a bad goal. Like he's going to win you that game as long as you play sound in front of him. Whereas with Levi, he can do those same things, but to your point, the athleticism, just obviously the uncanny IQ that he has in the way he looks at the game. He's going to make you those timely, incredible split-second saves to keep you in a game. And he's also a goalie too. And I know I didn't put this game on Comrie last year, that 10-goal game, because that wasn't on him. But what was it? That quote from The Replacements, Keanu Reeves. What's your worst fear? Quicksand. Because when things aren't going right, it feels like you're in quicksand. I don't think Devin Levi has that mentality. Like if he lets a bad goal in, he stays sharp. He just gets right back to the next shot. He doesn't carry it with him through the rest of the game. Whereas I'm not saying that's the way Comrie is, but I definitely know that's not the way Levi is. And that's why I trust him to be my 1A. Yeah. That's why in those important games, which is why we saw at the end of last year, that's your guy. That's going to be your workhorse.
For sure. His ceiling is much higher, and as he continues to get NHL experience, I think his floor is going to get higher too. I think they just need to get to that point where, of course, they don't overwork him. And as we've talked many times, that was our greatest fear with him, especially in his first NHL season, not playing this type of schedule. And as we talked about the other night, Comrie could have been really good in that Flames game. They did get outshot. There were a lot of high danger chances, but that could have been the game to put him in. I'm glad it worked out tonight. You don't have to – hindsight's 20/20. But the best case scenario is having a guy they can trust with Devin Levi. And I don't necessarily think it even needs to be behind him. Working in tandem with each other to win games for this team in congruence with better team defense. So we'll see what happens. But
I got Mauricio coming in here late. Let Comrie play more games. Levi can't be Granado's puppet. Play favorites. Nepotism, favoritism. Comrie is God. Dude, punctuation, Mauricio.
Where's the nepotism?
This is an English teacher's nightmare.
Nobody's related to anybody.
Comrie is God, our savior. Turn the hype down. Cheerleading on Levi. I don't know what that word's supposed to be. Almost forgot to chime. I agree. Turn the hype down when it comes to one good game from Comrie. I mean, the same can be said about Levi. I'm just tired of the same old vicious cycle when it comes to the narrative about goaltending in Buffalo amongst the fans.
Because if Levi comes in on Monday and has an amazing game, everyone's going to want him to be the starter.
You know what I mean? It's just pick your guy. Just pick your guy and go with it. He's your guy.
But I really do believe, and I can't stress this enough, especially in Levi's first season, the best case scenario is to have a guy that they can just throw right in there, because he's going to have his bad game or two. It's going to happen.
Oh, I don't disagree with you.
Every single young goaltender. And you can play him the majority of games as he continues to have good games, which I believe he will. But tonight, as we said the other night, was so, so important that we could have a guy like Eric Comrie come in, play steady, be good positionally, be good with his rebounds. He should have had a shutout tonight. I have no idea what Connor Clifton was doing on that play. That puck's going over the net, and he chicken winged it into the net. Insane. And I would be so pissed if I was Eric Comrie. But the thing about him is he's got such a good attitude. He's got such a positive attitude as a goalie in the locker room. Everybody loves him. He's a bit of a geek, it seems like, which, great. You need that type of energy sometimes. There's no way he's upset about it, but personally, I would be. I would have two-handed Connor Clifton. But it is what it is.
It was beer league, absolutely, because those shutouts are hard to come by in men's league.
Yeah, it's just what the puck's going over the net. Why'd you put your arm up? I don't know.
Maybe he's just trying to solidify the shutout and just trying to get it out of the zone.
It just wasn't even a good effort at blocking a shot. It's just nonsensical. But the defense as a whole, even Clifton, his physicality, I think is really good. And in general, they were great in front of their net. They cleared out rebounds. They got the puck out, and sometimes it's as simple as that. So I hope they keep that up. Obviously, against a team like Montreal on Monday, that's another must-win. And then you go to Ottawa against a very hot team with a lot of high-end offensive talent on Tuesday, back-to-back, which they haven't done yet this season. So
part of me wonders if they go right back with Comrie on Monday and start Levi in the more important Tuesday game.
Yeah, I would say either combination would be fine with me. Depending on Levi's
health. Out of that, at least 1-1. You know what I mean? You have to win one of those two games, preferably 2-0. But you can't lose to Montreal. I will say that. Do not lose to Montreal.
Gotcha. 11-1.
I know. Levi's from Quebec, so maybe the vibes will be high in the locker room. Hey, let's get him a start in front of his family, in front of his hometown. But if you're asking me, it's Ottawa. You put Levi in, because that's the game where you're going to be to our points from earlier, facing more high danger chances. They're a very run and gun team, have a lot of offensively gifted players. And they're a team much like us, kind of on the fringe, looking to, break through and make the playoffs. And, that's the game where I think you want to give yourself the best advantage in that. And personally, everyone knows how I feel. Everyone knows how you feel. I think that's Devin Levi.
Yeah, no, I agree. Especially with Batherson coming back, Josh Norris, Tim Stützle, Claude Giroux has found a rebirth in Ottawa. And we all know what Brady Tkachuk can do. Canadians don't really have it. And I feel like Monday's game could be very similar to tonight. Just limit the chances as much as possible. The Islanders looked slow. They looked like they got in late last night, and they played a overtime game against the Devils. Best case scenario, you could plug and play either guy in any situation, and then they go from there. I think this offense is going to continue to figure it out, but I'd be very fine winning a lot of 3-1 games this season. We do not need to score 300 goals. There's no reason which this team can't make the playoffs if we score significantly less goals.
We all assume that they're going to score less this season.
Yeah, that's the thing. And as long as the goals against are less, and as long as the team defense is better than it was, this team can still be successful.
Yep, I agree. I like this comment from Captain Ahab. This is exactly what we need. We need 2 competent goalies to be successful. Com showed he's a capable goalie tonight, and now Levi has some adversity and a challenge.
Comrie showed he was a capable goalie many times last season. I think his goals against average was inflated by that 10-goal game. He had an injury early on, and then largely, I would say the other 10 to 12 games he started, he played really well, and he was a pretty good goalie for the majority of his time in Winnipeg. Like, he's proved himself over the course of 3 to 4 seasons in the NHL. Everyone, as we say, is extremely reactionary to specific games and to specific goals, and they don't look at the bigger picture. I said it going into this year, and I said it, I'm saying right now, I do believe Eric Connery can get to the point where he's 1A, 1B. I really, really do, and that would be the best case scenario.
Again, I don't disagree with you. If it ends up being like a 60-40, 65-35 split, I'm completely fine with that.
I'd be fine with 45-55, 50-50. Whatever helps this team win games, I think could be the best case scenario.
Yeah, so another thing too, Benson, as mentioned earlier, out of the lineup. Obviously, he's played 4 games this season, approaching almost halfway to that 9. Well, pretty much to that halfway point of 9 games. Again, some more narrative today on the Twitter machine or X or whatever you want to call it. Benson should get sent down when he's this lineup. He's too young. He's 18, 19. I don't think there's any way Zach Benson gets sent down.
He's been one of the Sabres' best forwards.
Yeah, honest to God, most consistent forward. He's played with the most energy. He's been a little spitfire out there. And
the other night, he had a bad turnover, but there was a lot of other plays in the game where he's consistently plugging pucks. He's creating turnovers. He's getting in passing lanes. His effort is always there.
Yep.
And I don't necessarily think the team or the organization is worried about losing that 1 year of his entry-level deal because
they weren't worried about with Levi.
Exactly. If he's going to help the team win games, which is what they need to do this season, which is why it felt like the world was falling apart after the Flames game the other night, after they started 1-3, is because the expectation is to get to the playoffs, and it's going to be very difficult to do that.
No, I 100% agree. I have one more comment to make. Who was that on that hit? No, I'm sorry. We already talked about the Dahlian hit. What am I talking about? Any final thoughts? Obviously, I know you got to get out of here. Any final thoughts from you in terms of heading into the weekend? Obviously, we got Bills tomorrow against the Patriots. And then we come right back on Monday with the Sabres against the Canadians. Any final thoughts from you?
I would love a very similar game to tonight's game tomorrow morning. You have enough offense, but in general, the defense is going to need to do what they need to do against Mac Jones. Of course, he's a turnover-worthy guy and they can do whatever, but they just need to play responsibly. They don't have to play outside of themselves to win that game tomorrow. Of course, we all want the offense to get going. I think there's a lot of parallels with this team, especially Tage Thompson, Josh Allen, not necessarily being the world beaters that we once thought they were, but slow and steady wins the race, especially with how long both of these seasons are. Wins are wins, and as long as you get out alive and you do whatever you need to do on both ends of the ice or both ends of the field, both sides of the ball, that's all that matters. I think as we talked about going into this was a massive game. If they lost this one, I think it could have been really, really difficult to swallow. So thankfully they did not. They played almost a perfect game. And then you go into Monday, you go into Tuesday feeling much better about yourself. So see what happens. But I feel great, especially from a goaltending and defensive perspective.
And this is what I was trying to get at earlier. I know that hit, but Savoy. Talk about Benson. It would be nice to see Savoy get a look and actually when he was actually the best player at the Prospect Challenge. I think you probably will get a look at Savoy. I don't think they send him right back to Winnipeg. I know he's been practicing with the team. Not Winnipeg, but I think that he at least gets a small handful of games to see what they have there. And because we already know what you're going to get from him in junior, he's going to, put up a point plus per game. There's really nothing left there for him to accomplish. So I definitely think you get, at least 4 or 5 games out of him, maybe more depending on if there's injuries and whatnot. And of course there is the Pat Kane stuff. Once he's ready, Buffalo seems to be leading the conversation on Pat Kane. Jack Quinn will be back by the second month of the season. I think it's expected about 2 months into the season, correct?
Yeah. Well, I would say they're going to be cautious with it. I would be surprised if.
Yeah, I don't think they rush him back.
I say he's back in January.
Yeah. So with that being said, my expectation is a big blowout win tomorrow from the Buffalo Bills. Wouldn't it be something if they beat them so bad that they just fire Belichick?
So that was a huge discussion this week. We did a segment on it ourselves, and the conclusion is that that's never going to happen. Like, they're going to need to something way more horrible than that would have to happen for Robert Kraft to fire Belichick.
Yeah, I don't think he does.
Won like
before Belichick.
72-3 tomorrow. I don't think they would fire him. I really don't.
Yeah, it would be something though. It'd be funny, especially for Bills.
It'd be amazing. It would be
I think Belichick walks. Whatever. I think Belichick walks away on his own terms.
Yeah, no, he's got it. I think he's also earned that.
Yeah.
So, I don't think Kraft would ever fire him. So.
Yeah, I mean, there's no debating. He's the greatest football coach in the history of the game.
Another blowout or another shutout tomorrow would bring us closer to that, though. I really do.
That him probably walking away at the end of the season for sure. Like, there's no reason to fire him if that happens again tomorrow because the season's lost. Let him finish out the year, and he can make his own decision. Do you want to stay or do you want to go? Like, that's what I think. And then I fully expect, another Sabres win against Montreal on Monday. Excited to see what the lineups and the practice lineup look like. They'll probably you think they'll probably skate on Sunday?
I would imagine. They might give him the day off tomorrow and then do a Monday.
Yeah, it's true. I forgot. I don't know why today feels like a Friday to me. They'll get the day off. They'll get the day off tomorrow. You are correct. Morning skate will probably which is normally optional. We probably won't see lineups until right before the game. I imagine they'll stick with the same lines because they worked so well tonight. And we'll see who hops in net for Buffalo to start that back-to-back. So everybody, always on Twitter, on Facebook, on YouTube, thank you for joining us. Remember, this has been brought to you by Outlet Liquor, the place to buy a case on George Ribbon Boulevard. And I'll hang up and listen. Enjoy your weekend. Go Bills and go Sabres. We'll talk to you later.